So it's film marketing, Pascal, and you already made the allusion to the time-travelling phone box. We're not talking about time-travelling police boxes. We're talking about time-travelling phone boxes. We've already had a reference to music today. We've had those transistor radios. We've had Bruce Springsteen singing Born to Run. We are going to talk about Bill and Ted Face the Music. What do you think?
Oh, I am so excited. It's taking every ounce of my body not to say no way to you or to do the air guitar kind of movement and so on. What an incredible story we're going to share with you. So just in case you don't know about Bill and Ted, where have you been for the last 20, 30 years? But William Bill S. Preston Esq and Ted Theodore Logan are now middle-aged men who have failed to create the song that can unite the world. And time and space is about to collapse. Only one thing for it: Bill and Ted decide to jump inside the time-traveling phone booth to steal the song from their future selves. And as we've learned from previous episode of Bill and Ted, if you steal from yourself, it's not theft.
Do you know, I love time travel films. There's something about it. It just gets into your head, doesn't it? That the complexity of the ramifications of what people are actually trying to do. Now we've talked about Back to the Future before, and obviously films like Terminator. There's a time travel thing there, and it is that paradox, isn't it? It's you go into the past. If you go into the past to murder your father before you were born, then how could you have been born to go back into the past to murder your father? Therefore, you didn't murder him, therefore you would have been born, therefore you would have been able to. And by the time you get into that circular logic, you absolutely destroy your thought processes. But I mean, this is a comedy. And the original Bill and Ted was a time travel. They were going back in their phone book into time, and the whole idea is that they will eventually create a rock group that puts together this piece of music which unites society, and the story is pretty much the same. It's just that they still haven't managed to write that song.
So in preparation for this podcast, Roger, I try very hard to keep away from spoilers because we're not very lucky in the UK. We don't have the film on video on demand or pay-per-view, depending on which acronym you prefer. So it is out in the cinema. The movie was released actually late August. It had a bit of a troubled scheduling kind of plan, but that's understandable. I think it was originally scheduled to be released on 21st of August. Really got excited. Then they said, oh, don't worry, we've got it early for you on the 14th. Oh, sorry, now it's going to have to be late now on the 28th of August. So as ever, film goers and fans have had to be very, very patient. That's understandable. And that's not, in terms of date change, Roger, that's not been as dramatic as some other blockbusters out there.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I need to do before I go to see this one is actually to go back and watch the first two, because it must be 10 years at least since I've seen these films. But what do you think of the actual marketing they're doing now that they have got the launch on the go?
Well, I think they've played a very clever game. What I mean by that, I don't want to give them credit if that's not really their doing. But so it begins in Christmas 2019. We are announced obviously that the movie is about to be released. And with the first posters and images, and Alex Winter, who plays obviously Bill, also shared it on Twitter. And what we know is that they were really, really keen to release the movie in the summer to catch that summer market. So in February, the teaser poster and a new version of the trailer was out. Then a month later, of course, COVID happened. So they had to kind of release then the second trailer without giving too much away. And of course, made the decision for US only for now to go on video on demand. So it was a very safe marketing bet. But that's because, of course, what they could rely on is the fan base who got so excited about Bill and Ted Face the Music that they couldn't resist but go back to the first two, Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure, 1989, and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey in 1991. Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm remembering scenes as I'm talking to you, Roger. And it's making me laugh when they actually taking on death, playing a battleship and stuff like that. And what happened really is that suddenly everybody from Mark Commode, my go-to film critic, all the way to the local film buffs, created retrospectives videos on YouTube. So we made a comment earlier about the 5 billion views daily. In a space of a month, fans around the world creating nothing short of 24,000 videos looking back at the first Bill and Ted movies.
I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? But again, they're tapping. I mean, the studio won't have paid very many of those people for producing those videos. I mean, there's possibly some of the people with bigger subscriber lists may have got some sort of payment for doing it. But I expect that out of those 24,000 videos, most of them were done for free. And yet, just think of the word of mouth that's created for this film. I mean, they're tapping into the nostalgia, they're tapping into the fan base. I'm surprised, and we're doing it as well. So we're adding to that. And you should never underestimate the power of YouTube. And again, as you said, 5 billion views a day. It's the second biggest search engine after Google. And of course, people are going to type in Bill and Ted, and they're going to come across these retrospective reviews, and it's going to point people towards seeing this new film. It's
just going to fuel the appetite. So, my comment to you here, who needs marketing when you have fans like this?
Yeah.
And there's also obviously the contributions. So Alex Winter, as you know, has moved on to film production, whereas Keanu remain as film performance, you could argue. So he's very active on the socials, and even did in May, when I think they knew that they would have to delay till August. So to keep the fan kind of engaged, he also did a bit of a competition on social media where people had to essentially imitate, the air guitar playing of the Wild Stallions for a bit of a cameo on, kind of tucked away TV screens, during the main story of Bill and Ted Face the Music. The fans are also going crazy about potential Easter eggs. So where there will be objects, scenes, characters, and more from the first two. So I think this movie is going to be talked about for quite some time.
Yeah, and it will undoubtedly create another series of unforgettable memes, I guess. Because there's always the things you can remember from the first two films, like the way they sing Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, the telephone box. I mean, it's a straight rip-off of the TARDIS out of Doctor Who, although it's not bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. But that is effectively what it is, a time-travelling telephone box. So I can't wait to see what the cultural references are that they've built into this new film.
What is interesting, you mentioned the music. So, I mean, I don't remember, but I must have watched the VHS cassette because back in 89, 91, those movies were out when I was working in the video store. I mean, I must have watched those movies so many times because they would just lift your spirits, and the acting was so on point in terms of, the goofy Californians and so on, living in San Dimas. People don't like the second one. I like it a lot, actually. It's a much smarter storyline, potentially. That's why it disconnected with a much younger audience. But the way they take on death and the way they actually, possess, his dad's body, and he pretends to be Keanu Reeves, Ted and so on. It's just some beautiful moments in that. But in terms of the music, the soundtrack for Bill and Ted Face the Music is out already. So another maybe a form of marketing, Roger. They've used more, obviously, current bands, including one that you introduced me to, Weezer.
Yeah. Now, I wonder whether I should actually go and have a look at that track list or whether I should leave it to be surprised, because if I see some songs on there that I like, then it might ruin the film for me a little bit. So I don't know what to do.
No, absolutely. So in terms of film marketing, I'm wondering whether the message we can extract, from this is this idea of don't be afraid to go back to some of your previous content, either yourself and revisit it to maybe show that your thinking has moved on, or to show that things are as equal as they were. And then is there a message within the film? So what we have here is obviously our two heroes who are now middle-aged men who have not accomplished their goal, maybe because of a number of things that has got in the way. And is it back to this idea of it's never too late, or don't wait too long? What do you think?
I think you're right. The films were always hopeful, weren't they, and aspirational, and no doubt that will still be in the new film. And the fact they haven't achieved their goal, I'm sure that by the end of it, they'll have achieved something. And yeah, absolutely. We talk about all the time on this podcast consistency of content and repurposing of content. And of course, you should go back to what you've already done and tweak it, bring it up to date, rewrite it, re-image it, whatever it is. But yeah, we can take some strong lessons from Bill and Ted. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this one.
Oh, do you know, I think our audience has kind of gathered that you and I are pretty excited. I mean, we are film buffs, and we would watch. My mum used to say to me when I was younger, you're happy as long as it moves and makes sounds. That's true. I'll watch anything. But I have to say, at this moment in time, with what we're going through, this is going to be the movie to cheer everyone up.
Yeah, I think we all need a little bit of cheering up, Pascal, don't we? We all need a little bit of cheering up. So I think that brings us to the end of another episode of Two Geeks and a Marketing Podcast. We could get back into the time-travelling phone box and go back and talk about another film, but we'll leave that for the next episode. So that just leaves me to say thank you, as always, everybody, for watching the show or listening to the show if you listen to the audio version of Two Geeks and a Marketing Podcast. Please subscribe, leave us comments where you consume your content, and until next time, let's ask you to go out there and make sure that your marketing is done right. I was Roger Edwards and he was Pascal Fintoni.